Hey everybody, this is Raul for Bass Musician Magazine, and today we have the great honor and pleasure of chatting with bassist Jessica Kion.
Hello.
So, welcome to Bass Musician Magazine, Jessica. It's always great to talk to fellow bassists. As always, we like to find out about your journey so we get to know you a little better as a bassist. How did you get started?
Um, I started playing bass after playing violin and cello in orchestra, and I had some friends in orchestra and in middle school who were other female friends, and they we all were kind of like, let's start a band, and then everything else was kind of taken, and so they were like, you be the bass player, and I was like, okay. And I kind of mentioned it to my dad, who is a musician, and I went away for the weekend and came back, and there's a bass and an amp by my bed when I came back. So,
Nice.
yeah, that's how it started.
And so another chance beginning with bass, and obviously you picked it up and it clicked.
Yeah, yeah. In that first band, we would rehearse every week, and it was really fun, really bonding experience. And then I started getting really serious around high school and started playing more with my older brother, who's a saxophone player. And my brother also convinced me to be in all of these bands. So I was in jazz band and pep band and marching band, and that also made music a lot more serious in my life.
Excellent, excellent. And I always like to insert here because we're living at a time when music education is being slashed and cut. And I always like to point out to anybody that hears this the vast importance of music education in our lives, whether you become a musician or not, because it helps develop social skills. Here you're dealing with other people. It helps develop mathematical skills. I mean, look at all the time signatures and things that you've had to look at and kind of mentally figure out. It's a wonderful thing, not just as a preparation for musicians, but for the population in general. So again, I'm so pleased again to hear somebody that has been motivated from an early age with the musical program in the school system
Yeah.
and has gone on to do something with it. So we leave high school, you decided to pursue it at a more formal level. Tell me more.
Yeah. So yeah, during high school, I started being in every musical thing I could be in at school, also including choir and orchestra,
Hmm.
and then also just doing it after school with friends and groups and playing shows, and eventually playing at a jazz camp in Washington State, which is called Centrum, and that
Hmm.
was an amazing experience. Really changed my life, and that was right before my senior year, when college has to be figured out, and so I knew at that point that I really wanted to go to Berkeley. It was the only school that had multiple electric bass teachers I could find. And I was just like, this is the place. And I applied and I got in and I went. And it was great.
Very cool. And
Yeah.
like so many Berkeley graduates we chat with, and again, we've got lots of good friends that went to Berkeley. One of the commonalities I see is that they get out and they kind of hit the ground running. So now, as we fast forward, you are playing with Bended Knee.
Hmm.
Tell
But
us, Bent Knee. I like to change things. Bent Knee started around 2009, if I understand correctly. Were you with the band from the start, or?
I was the second bass player.
Okay.
Um, I had known most of the band members by then, though, and I was already a really big fan. And then I filled in for this show and then ended up playing. But that was my sophomore year that I joined Bentley, and everyone is a year or two older than me, and so I was in Bentley and Berkeley the longest, and it was especially cool because Berkeley had us, they like basically had us part of their heavy rotations. They pick a band or two to like really just like give a couple of shows to and promote extra, and so
Nice.
that was really great. I was the only one still at Berkeley when that happened, so yeah, it was
Very cool. And the music that you guys play, it's kind of an interesting description. I was kind of reading through it. It's kind of rock slash pop slash avant-garde, art rock. Tell me more about genres are so complicated, but tell me a little bit about that.
So I usually kind of feel out like if it's like a complete stranger in a supermarket who is like, why are you guys here? Oh, you know, why is there like 620 somethings all like getting food together? And we'll be like, we're in a band. And then they'll be like, what kind of music? And like for that person, I would say we're a really dynamic rock band. So really loud, really soft, really crazy, really not. And then for whenever I get the hint that people kind of are more aware of like what's going on musically, I like to give like a few examples like that seem safe and positive, like Radiohead and I don't know. Yeah, that's probably the safest one. Like we're doing it like they did, like pretty weird.
Gotcha. Well, and it's not unusual for bands to have influences from other bands, but by the same token, you don't want to be the Taste Like Chicken kind of band where you gotta go, oh, you guys are just like this. You're like, no, we want to be our own thing, but with shades and little bits and standing on the shoulders of other bands and musicians, where you take something and go, okay, I like this part of it, but then I like this part of this, but you're working at a unique sound. Now, recently you guys released an album just this last summer, Land Animal. Tell me about that. Part of what, again, kind of interesting description on your website, and we'll definitely share your website, but there was a mention of it being juicy and kind of more of an immediate gratification kind of album as compared to prior albums. So tell me about Land Animal.
So Land Animal is definitely more, it's, I think we've gotten better at like combining all of our ideas, and the album like has a very distinct flow to it that other albums don't have. I think a big part of that is because of the short period we wrote it in. So everything kind of still has stank of other stuff on it. We were all pretty heavily influenced by Kendrick Lamar's To Pimp a Butterfly, and just how dense and beautiful and crazy some of the rhythms and riffs and ideas are happening in that album. And so we kind of like the thing too, as you've probably heard a bunch, like when you like steal from another artist, like you can't actually do it like them, and so it ends up being different. And so I think some of the things that we stole, just they're like untraceable because we like butchered them. But yeah, I would say grooves are a big part of that.
Very cool. And my understanding is that you and the drummer have a real tight kind of bond, which is not unusual for bass, but that you guys have a really good lock on it. That's a key part of this album.
Yeah, I think from like my first show ever with Bentley, there was a song from our first album called Urban Circus where it starts with these hits that are basically out of nowhere, and it's like it has like a rhythm to it in that there'll be one hit and then two hits and then one hit and then one hit, but they would happen at random times, and I would just watch our drummer Gavin. And the thing is, once he knew I was starting to get comfortable with it, he would like try to trick me.
Yeah.
So like I think for like the whole time I've been in Bentley, like a big part of my brain is like, let's do this with Gavin, like right on, perfect, and it just like feels great to do that.
Excellent, excellent. And I also was watching, you guys have a video, Time Dear,
Hmm.
and that's fairly recent. Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, so "Time Dear" is a song about a traveling a time traveling deer who he like experiences basically like horror in his current time and wants to go back and basically destroy the chance of there being humans um, because of what happens. And yeah, or at least that's my interpretation. We don't like whenever we write songs, we like generally don't like all be like, okay, and this is what it means.
Sure.
And it's just yeah. So our friend named Riki, he lives in Japan. He did the animation for that music video, and he also did our album artwork and did a great job. He's super talented, and yeah.
Very cool. Well, what can I say about a butterfly effect in other species kind of issue? I mean, it's certainly
Yeah.
I haven't heard of it being done before. It doesn't sound like it's a concept that's been taken from anyone else, but still very cool, very creative, and it's one of the exciting things. In spite of the fact that there is so much music in the world, there's infinite possibilities of more, which is really great. And I go back to the fact when you mentioned sometimes you take little snippets from other bands or other musicians. I think that's one of the most common things there is.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people don't realize that, and it may have to do with the way that music was being distributed in the past, where there have been groups that have taken music from other parts of the world and they put it in the music and we hear it here. We're going, oh, what a unique thing. And it's like, no, that's
Right.
they've been doing this for a long time, and vice versa. I was listening to some Brazilian music that had I want to say maybe 2 or 3 bars of like Beethoven slid into a samba, and I'm kind of going, okay, I recognize this pattern, and it's not yours because it's way too recognizable,
Right.
but still, it's all kind of fair game because you have a pentagram, you've got so many notes, and sometimes things will have a little overlap there. Um, excuse me. What are we looking at for the band coming in the future? What does Bethany have coming up?
We're going to be doing some US and Canada dates in October, and then we are hoping to go to Europe in the spring.
Nice.
And we have a new thing. I don't know how much I can talk about it, but we have a new thing happening in the spring, and it'll be premiering in a couple places. And yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So where would be the best place? Because this is going to that's nice. Tease us. A lot of people are going to kind of want to know where would be the best place for them to kind of keep track of what's coming. So when it kind of gels, they know for sure.
On our website, bentleymusic.com, you can sign up for our email list, which we tell everybody everything.
Mm-hmm.
And Facebook, the normal places. But yeah.
Very cool. And I would be remiss because as it is with the bass community, we are very gear centered. Tell us a little bit about your choices of gear. What gives you your voice?
Well, I really love my bass.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Geddy Lee jazz bass, and it has like a super thin neck, and I have really tiny child hands, and so it's really perfect for that. It has a great tone, and yeah, I love everything about it, and I've had it for a while now. So yeah. Then I didn't play with pedals for a really long time because I felt like everyone else in Bentley was like doing so much. For those of you who don't know, like I have we have violin, we have keyboards, vocals, guitar, vocal effects, the synth,
Yeah.
and everything has like so many possibilities. So, for instance, like our synth player will just play a sample sometimes, or both the guitar and or all three the guitar, the main keyboards, and the violin all use like effect pedals that can just make a delay last forever, like bring these kind of magical sounds into the group. But the so it just didn't feel like I needed to be doing any other thing.
Sure.
And I recently added a bass whammy pedal to what I play with, and that's been really cool. I just use it basically for octave stuff, but I think I'll be using it more in the future for other stuff.
There you go.
And yeah, and I also same with our drummer, for the last like 6 years hadn't been playing on our own amp or drum set whenever we toured, which was most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so we would just play with whatever was there. And so I got to play on tons of bass amps and try out all these different combinations. And I recently had to get something for the tour because we upgraded in vehicles, and like we're headlining for a long time, and so it was like important that I had an amp.
Mm-hmm.
And I got an Aguilar is it Hammer Tone 550, I think.
Yeah, Tone Hammer.
Tone Hammer, there you go. And like a MPEG 210 cab, and it's like really forward, like it's such an in-your-face kind of tone. I'm still getting used to it and like dialing in exactly like what's right. It's not like automatically like this is the best, but it's like it's good so far. And I think in my ideal world, I might be playing through an orange Terror bass amp because my friend has one of those, and it's like the best sound. So yeah, I think maybe someday that, but I also might just get really good at this sound and make it work for me. But yeah, that's about where I'm at.
Absolutely. Well, and it's getting your sound dialed in and getting your voice dialed in, I think, is one of the greatest challenges. And as many times as I talk to amplifier manufacturers, even instrument manufacturers, if you've got EQ on board, if you're active, you're passive, then you start adding in pedals or no pedals. I mean, if you take pedals out of the equation, with most of the amps nowadays, you have so much dialing in on your EQ. How do you want the wave to be? It's challenging, and you almost need like an engineer to come and walk you through and go, okay, this is how this works. This is what you want to do here. And I can't tell you how many players come back to, they say, I just said it straight up. And I just leave it alone that way, and I'm fine with it, So I'm not spending my time doing all this stuff. So it's all part of the journey with that. Mm-hmm. Well, in addition to playing with Bent Knee, I know also you're busy with other projects and other things. I think with creative people, it's kind of the ongoing project because you've got time when you're on stage, you got time when you're off stage, and in your offstage time, it's hard not to be thinking about something else that you're doing. If I'm not mistaken, you do graphic design. I'm seeing chemical bonds behind you. Uh, my dad was a chemist, which is why this is all kind of going, oh my gosh, covalent bonds. And acting and other things. Tell us just a little more about what you're doing or what future projects you would like to do on your own.
Okay. I have a band called Justice Cow where I write the songs, and it's like I call it like the stinky half of Bentley. It's me, the guitarist and the drummer, and it was very much like influenced by the time I was involved in improv comedy, and we do a lot of skits and silly songs mixed up with very serious and heartbreaking songs. And I love Tim and Eric Andre, and I'm forgetting his name, Andy Kaufman. And when I was kind of figuring out what Justice Cow would be, I thought like Andy Kaufman's idea that you can make people cry and laugh in one show. I thought that was like the perfect combination of things. And so we just do really, really small like living room shows for our friends mostly, and kind of prefer the like more comfortable, like friendly vibe to like bars and people, like risking not really getting through with this kind of tongue-in-cheek comedy thing. But yeah, that's like probably the main thing. And then I'm involved in a lot of our guitarist Ben Levin's stuff. He's always writing a ton of music. Nice. And we also like improvise a lot together. For the last 2 years, we've just been like having shows where we get a group to improvise together, and sometimes Courtney or Chris will join us. And then I'm also involved in this group called That One-Eyed Kid, and that's another like Boston group, and the writer is like amazing pop artist, and he has one eye. And
yeah. Well, there you go.
yeah, it's really fun. So.
Well, location is an important thing, especially for availability of lots of stuff going on. And Boston is a very happening music town, just like we have Portland, Oregon, right across the river from us, and there's always just a ton of things going on. So you could be as busy as you want, really. Well, Jessica, thank you so much for taking time to chat with us.
Yeah, no problem.
Make sure, folks, that you check out Bent Knee. All the future news and things. The website, again, is bentkneemusic.com, and social media along that line. And you can watch what Jessica's doing and find out what the band's doing. And hopefully they will be coming to a town near you. And as always, I encourage people to support live music, because that's where the absolute energy is. Recordings are great and fun, but there's nothing like being there when the musicians are, sharing their creative efforts with you. So again, folks, Jessica Kion, you've seen her live here on Bass Musician Magazine.
Thank you.
Welcome.